Hi everyone, I'm Bea, and today we're going to be kicking off a Sandbox Game Maker 101 series, teaching you the basics on how to get started on creating your own experiences and games in the Sandbox Metaverse. So if you're completely new to the Game Maker, this tutorial is especially for you. We are going to be having a look at controls, how to navigate the interface, and a few shortcuts and things that'll help you out when you're just getting started. Alright, so here we are at the startup menu. This is the first thing you'll see when you open the program. And there are a few things you can do. Of course, you can create your first experience, but before we do that, I just want to introduce you to the other things that you see here. You see a few tabs here. The one to the right is the drafts gallery. The drafts gallery is basically where you can currently upload your experiences and your games, and this is also where you can find other player-made stuff. So this is all stuff that has been made by other players. There is a total right now of 350 pages. There's a lot of stuff, okay? And there's also a lot of talent in here, so this might also be a great place to get some inspiration maybe. But you can have a look around here, and this is also right now where you're going to be uploading. Because you can't currently publish to land. That feature is currently not available. So the next thing you'll see is the templates, and the templates are pretty useful. You can go through them. I would recommend maybe you start from the beginning. This is basically how I learned the Game Maker. I mostly used the templates to learn. I did watch some videos for some more advanced stuff, but this is where I learned the basics. So you can go through these tutorials if you want to do it that way. So yeah, let's go back to my drafts. This is where you will find your own drafts, what you've been working on, and also where you can create a new draft. So anyway, let's start by creating our first experience. So the first thing you want to note is you can create a name. So let's just quickly do a test. And I just want to note that you can change this name when you upload it to the gallery, so don't worry too much about getting the name right. It's fine, it's okay. The second thing that you can choose is the theme. Generally, I would say you just want to leave that empty, because then you get a blank map where you can work from the bottom and up. But you can also choose a theme that can be jungle, islands, Antarctica, nether, desert, etc., etc. And what it'll do is basically give you some terrain and a little bit of foliage, I think, as well, that'll sort of fit that theme. And then you can go from there. But, you know, it can be fine to start off just to sort of get a feel of how to make terrain and stuff. But the last option here is how big we want our experience to be. So we can choose a 1x1, 1x2, 2x2, etc., all the way up to 4x4. And 4x4 is quite big. And also one thing you do want to note is if you ever are hoping to publish your game onto a piece of land, you do need to own land that is the same size as your experience. So if your experience is 4x4, you do need to own 4 lands that are next to each other in this particular way, so that you can publish it onto that land. So just keep that in mind if you're hoping to actually publish something onto that. But for now, we're just going to select a 1x1 land and get into the program itself. Alright, so here we are in game, and the way you control the camera to start off is by using the mouse wheel to scroll, which is pretty standard, and you click the mouse wheel and drag to move the camera around and to pan the camera around. To rotate the camera around your cursor, where your cursor is, you click Alt and left click, and it'll rotate around where your cursor currently is. So if your cursor is over here, it's going to rotate around that point. If instead you click Alt and right click, it's going to rotate around where you are, around orbit. And some quick shortcuts for how you place blocks. So we've got a block here. This is our list down here. It's not a standard list. I think you'll have some different blocks here by default. But let's just grab this block right here. To place blocks, you basically just click and drag. You will make a rectangle of any size that you want. And if you want to place your blocks at ground level so that you don't have to first delete the blocks that are here, you just hold your left control and drag again. And that's going to replace the blocks that were here. To remove blocks, you need to right click. Right click is going to remove blocks. And also if you hold down right control and click, it's going to replace everything on the surface. So if you started with a blank land, but you're going for a snowy landscape, that's a pretty good way to just start out by making the entire thing snowy, replacing the land or the grass that was there before it. So that is some basic controls on how to use the blocks and how to move the camera around. Another thing that can be useful for you is having a look at these little shapes up here. So when you're placing blocks, if you need to place a cube, you can adjust the size here to whatever size you want. And you can actually place cubes, or you can place diamond shapes, like little pyramids kind of things, and little round spherical shapes and stuff like that. That can be useful for making terrain and such. So that tool is also there if you need it. Okay, so let's have a look at how to place assets. So to open your library, you press L. Let's just pretend like I hadn't opened it already. You can also drag your library to make it, what size you want. But if you want to just open it, it's here by default. If you want to just open it, you click L and it's going to open up your library. I do like to adjust it a little bit because that takes up a lot of space on the screen. So I'm just going to select this asset. That was an asset I made for the game jam. This guy right here, place him, and if you want to move him around, you need to use this tool right here. This is to move him. You click him and then you get like a bunch of arrows. The blue one will move him like this. You'll move him on different axes, up and down. And if you hold down shift while you move him, it's going to sort of make him snap to a grid. So I think it moves like half a voxel or something like that at a time. So that's pretty useful. You can also see these little squares here that basically lets you move him freely, but only on the ground. So like he's not going to go up and down. And if you instead pick this square right here, you are going to only move him up and down and not, from side to side and all of that. So that is how you sort of move them around. If you want to rotate an asset, you need to go over here and click on this. And then again, you're going to be getting a bunch of things. You can rotate the asset around different axes. So if you want to rotate it to the side, you click and drag this one. Tip him, rotate like this, click and drag. Again, you can use your shift key to make him snap to a grid. You can also just select, if you select this white sort of sphere thing, it's going to give you completely free rotation of the object. So that's how you rotate an asset. You might also want to add assets to your toolbar. You've got your toolbar right here. So maybe there is an asset that you use a lot in your experience. Say you want this big bush, you use it a lot in your foliage. So you click and drag and drop it onto this one. So now key 4 is your big bush right here. And you can just select those. So that's pretty useful to sort of have a tool belt of things that you can use. And also, if you want more assets, you can go and click the marketplace. If you do that, it'll then take you to the marketplace where you can buy assets. But if you scroll down to the bottom, past the assets that have a price in sand, etc., you can also see some assets that have a little plus. And those you can just add freely to your game. You click the plus and you will be immediately able to use them inside the game maker. Just note that just by doing that, you don't own the asset. And if you ever want to properly publish the experience onto land, you do need to own the assets that are inside your experience for you to be able to do that. So either they need to be assets that you yourself have made and published, or they need to be assets that you have purchased from other people. So just keep that in mind, but it is pretty useful, at least for now, it's pretty useful because you can also upload these, even with these NFTs that you haven't paid for, you can still upload those to the gallery in your game experience. So you can try them out and enjoy yourself, but eventually it's probably going to be better to make your own assets or purchase assets off the marketplace. All right, another thing that a lot of people don't really understand when they start out, including myself, I see this question in Discord a lot, is how to both enter test mode and specifically how to exit test mode. To enter the test mode, you click tab and you will spawn on the avatar spawner, which you can also move around the map. And then you can basically test your game, see what works and what doesn't. To get out of test mode, you need to click tab again, and you can continue working. Just remember, always save your experience, especially before you enter test mode. People are sometimes experiencing crashes when they've been in test mode and stuff. I haven't experienced crashes, I think, ever at all in the Game Maker, but a lot of people apparently have, especially after they come back from test mode. So remember to save your experience so you don't lose your work. Another shortcut, well, we've already covered that one, is the library. Press L for library. Another shortcut that is quite useful, I think, is when you select an asset. And, you might have some behaviors and components. I'm going to cover that later, what that is and what does. But if you have something on that asset you want to duplicate, or if you just want this bush twice and you don't want to go through the library to find it, you can press Ctrl D and it will duplicate that item. And you can move it around. And also, something else that is useful when you are creating foliage in particular is if you have a bunch of bushes like this, you just duplicated all of them. Now you can see they're all sort of rotated the same way. Click and drag, you select all of them. They all are rotated the same way, which looks kind of ugly. So a quick way to fix that is simply by selecting all of them and pressing R. It's going to randomly rotate all of those things. The last shortcut you should know and remember to use is Ctrl S. It is going to save your progress and, continue, keep doing it, okay? Do it regularly. Make sure you don't lose your work. And I also briefly covered how you can go to the marketplace earlier to get other assets. But if you want to make your own assets, you can also go and use Vox Edit. Vox Edit can be downloaded off the Sandbox's website. If you click on Create, you will be able to download the Game Maker. You'll be able to download Vox Edit and create your own avatar. Vox Edit is basically where you are going to be modeling different assets in-game. For the Game Maker. So you make an asset, you export it to the marketplace, and then you will be able to use it in your experience. You should just note right now that to be able to publish your asset and specifically also to be able to sell your asset, you do have to be part of the Creator Fund. This is going to go away at some point. We are all going to be able to sell and publish our assets at some point, but right now we cannot. And that means that since you cannot publish your assets, you will not be able to upload an experience, also not to the gallery, that contains unpublished assets. So if you're not in a Creator Fund and you've made an asset and you want to upload something, right now you're not going to be able to. But if you want to start working on an experience and you're creating your own assets, you will eventually be able to upload. You will eventually be able to publish those assets and then upload at a later time. So if that doesn't bother you that you cannot upload right now, then that's fine. That's not a problem. You can go right ahead and make your assets and, knock yourself out. Alright everyone, I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. If it was, do help me out by leaving a little like on the video. Also, do subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I've got plenty of content planned already, more tutorials planned, both covering all of the basics, but also some more advanced stuff in the Game Maker. So stay tuned for all of that. Until then, if you have any questions, you can always ask in the comments down below, or you can catch me in between videos on Twitter at Veepyre. I am very active on Twitter, so if you want to have a chat or just ask some questions, you can head on over to Twitter and follow me there if you want to. But that's the end of this tutorial, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Be out!